Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we're going to be taking a look through my collection of vintage Ballantine paperbacks. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look. Okay then, so we're starting off with this one, which is my earliest Ballantine. It's number 16, and it's the Star Science Fiction Stories, and these are edited by Frederick Poole. And the main thing about this was that it does say 15 stories never before published anywhere. So I believe that old Frederick Poole got these commissioned especially for this collection. So this may well be the first time that these books ever saw print. At least that's what they're pertaining to. Now, I'm not so sure myself if that's actually true, but that was the Star Science Fiction. That was sort of what they went on. And I really do love the design of these. A lot of the covers, for the science fiction ones especially, were done by Richard Powers, and he's got a very distinctive style. And this very early one is from the first year of Ballantine, which is 1953 there. And Ballantine Books themselves were set up by Betty and Ian Ballantine. They come to the States to set up Penguin Books Incorporated in about 1941 on behalf of Alan Lane, and eventually sold it back to them and worked for Bantam for a while, and then eventually set up Ballantine Books. And well, there we are. And they really were an instant hit, weren't they? Copying the same sort of principle as Penguin, doing predominantly paperback reprints of books that had already been in hardback with a smattering of new publications such as that one. So here's Ballantine 25, The Undying Fire. So predominantly my collection of Ballantine is science fiction. However, I have got some of their non-science fiction titles in here as well, regular fiction, some movie tie-ins, and some short story anthologies as well, which we'll have a look right through, right up until the early 1970s in actual fact. So this is Henry Kuttner, Ahead of Time. And once again, this is 10 stories. There we are. Looks like someone's read the first one. They've ticked it there. That's Ballantine 30. And the early ones are all numbered, which is quite nice for collectors. Now, this is a great little series, which I absolutely love. And unfortunately, I haven't got anything like as many as I would like. I'm trying to get all the ones up to 1970, and I've probably got about half of what was published in that time. They didn't do every single year, particularly in the 1950s, but I think the 60s, they pretty much did them all. And that's the Best American Short Stories here, edited by Martha Foley. And she edited the whole range right up until, well, I think the 1990s in actual fact. I believe it's still going today. And I really like these Ballantine issues where they're really interesting covers, and you do get quite a selection of authors. That's Ballantine 34. So if you're a collector and you like to collect publishers, which I do, these are great, you know. The only problem is, being in the UK, of course, and these are American, they don't really turn up over here in great numbers. However, I suspect that almost all of the Ballantine science fiction, for example, was imported, because I've seen loads of them with Thorpe and Porter stickers on, and we will see some of those later on. But something like that, all my Best of American Short Stories, for example, that I own, I've had to import from the States. So I don't think those were regarded as, you know, ever likely to sell on the British market, whereas the science fiction was a bit more universal, shall we say. So this is Theodore Sturgeon, More Than Human, number 46. Here's the first of a few John Wyndhams we'll have today. This one is The Kraken Wakes, Out of the Deeps. Dare the Triffids, of course, came out published by Popular Library, so Ballantine didn't have that one. But Wyndham in the States did stick with Ballantine for quite a while, right up until the 1960s. That was Ballantine number 50. Here's a particularly beautiful copy of Expedition to Earth, number 52, by Arthur C. Clarke. Really, really nice. Beautiful, beautiful copy of this one. 1953 again still. And here's Star Science Fiction Stories number 2. Once again, they're, you know, championing in the fact that these are 14 stories that have never been published before. This is 1954, of course, so this may well be the first time that the book saw print. The pulps were still going very strongly around this time, weren't they, in the 1950s? Number 68, another Arthur C. Clarke, Prelude to Space. Now, this is a known press with Ballantine books, so they didn't come out simultaneously. The hardback still came out first, but it's interesting that they've pointed out known press on the front there. That is unusual, so we say. Powers jacket again. As I said, he did most of the science fiction ones, most of them, not quite all of them, but certainly he's got a very distinctive style. Robert Crane, Hero's Walk. Novel of the Future, once again. And one of the things I do like about the Ballantine books is how well made they are. That may seem a bit of a weird thing to say, but not all publishers from the 1950s had such nice quality books, and I think that's a reflection of Ballantine's history, because Alan Lane was such a stickler for quality books, and since they started their book publishing career with Penguin, they probably had some good pedigree there. So I think the Ballantine books are particularly well made compared to, say, some of the other publishers of the period, particularly the British ones. Anyway, here's another one, Star Short Stories. Another, now it doesn't boldly say on the front here now, all brand new, but I'm sure some, in fact, this is actually 3, in effect, novellas on this one. 1954. Shadows in the Sun, Chad Oliver. Surprising as only science fiction can be. Wow, you said it. They're lovely, aren't they? They really are nice. I've been sort of tracking down as many Ballantine as I come across, really. If they've been in reasonably nice condition, I've picked them up over the last couple of years. So my collection's pretty much doubled since I last showed any on the channel, which was about 2.5, 3 years ago now. So I thought we were a little bit overdue for a collection update. Here's Star Science Fiction Stories number 3. It does actually say 10 stories all new in science fiction's outstanding anthology series. Well, there we are. And that was what was in that one. Some fantastic names. There's a Philip K. Dick and Matheson. You could say everyone a winner there, couldn't you? Here's another Arthur C. Clarke. I don't know how I've quite managed to end up with quite so many of his, but Earthlight. Maybe these were just bigger sellers. In fact, that there they all are on the back, which is quite nice, isn't it? Don't mind Arthur C. Clarke. He's a bit like Isaac Asimov. He's one of those authors who I read a lot of when I was growing up, and I've gone back to now, and I've enjoyed the memories, really, you know. Rebirth, which I believe is the Chrysalids, by John Wyndham again. This is number 104. So that little run there, out of the first 100, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've only got 14. So I'm a long, long way off, shall we say. But I don't mind, because I don't in any way expect to get all of them by any means, particularly not being based in the UK. But they're just great fun to pick up. And I've got lots of fun ahead of me. I think there's probably about twice that again of science fiction alone in the first 100. So if you just collect the science fiction, there's some good stuff in there to track down. This is 113, Chad Oliver, Another Kind. Powers jacket. There, a lot of them are signed, some of them aren't, but quite a few are. Now I'm going to move that pile over to this side here, leave it just in shot while we build up another rack. So No Boundaries. This is a Kuttner and C.L. Moore. Memorable stories of science fiction and fantasy. It's like, yeah, like 5 novelettes, they call them, but I suppose they're novellas. 1955 we're up to now. This is quite a famous one, isn't it? Robert Sheckley, Citizen in Space. 12 Surprising Stories. (1955) now. Aren't they just lovely? They feel, what's the word? Robust in the hand, you know? Right, this is another lovely one. It's the Best American Short Stories from 1955. Once again, Martha Foley got that really nice interesting, super detailed jacket on these, front and back. And the jackets on these, I think, are fantastic, the way that they change throughout the years, you know. It's a shame that the ones in the 80s and 90s onwards become more typographical, which is just typical of how the business went, I suppose. This is one I've had in my collection quite a long time, long before I was collecting Ballantine books per se, and this is Ray Bradbury. Sadly, I haven't got Fahrenheit 451, which is also in Ballantine. That came out, I think, in the first 100, and I've not got that one. But this is, well, his next most famous, you could say, October Country. I've got the British edition of this as well, which I think is by Ace UK. And this is by far the better looking of the two. Yeah, there's Fahrenheit 451. I would like that one, you know. I've seen a couple on eBay in the last year or so signed by him, but they've gone for several $100s. Alas, a little bit out of my price range. But this isn't the greatest condition, but as I said, it is one I've had for a long time. And it is the first from 1955. Martian Chronicles I've got, but that's published in Bantam. It's a really nice Bantam, that. Lester Del Rey, Nerves. An explosive story of danger in a peacetime atomics plant. Okay. Powers jacket again. Very, very nice. Not a bad copy of that one either. 151. Now another John Wyndham here. Tales of Gooseflesh and Laughter, which I believe was published in the UK by Foursquare first as Jizzle. But they changed the name. There we are. Oh, there we are. Jizzle, yeah. So that was one of the short stories included in it. 1956, that one. That was 182. Here's number 197. So I think I've got these in number order correctly. James Blish. Nice early one for him. The Frozen Year. Little signature of Powers down the bottom there. Don't mind a bit of James Blish. Now, I first read him with his Star Trek adaptations, you know, the Star Trek books, you know, the numbered ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. But he's a great science fiction writer in his own right, and I'd like to read a bit more of his, to be honest. Now, here we got best American short stories from 1956. Once again, Martha Foley, and a really, really nice nice jacket there. A little bit of James Dean I spotted in the top left corner there. This is Ballantine 204. Jack Kerouac contributed to this one. Shirley Jackson. Philip Roth. Big, big, thick book, as you can see. Yeah, it's a shame they didn't do all the ones from the 1950s, but I think they did most of the 1960s. So, and we've got a few to show you today. The first of a few Philip Jose Farmers. So when Jose Farmer started getting big, a lot of his paperbacks were published as Ballantines. And I've got a fair few of them because I'm collecting Jose Farmer in his own right across all publishers. This one, interestingly, has got a 2 and 6 sticker over, well, the Ballantine 35 cents logo would have been in the corner there. This is number 210 in their numbered series. Very, very nice. Green Odyssey. And 1957 for this first Jose Farmer, but by no means the last. Lester Del Rey, Robots and Changelings, 11 Tales of Fantasy, again, very, very nice, number 246. Beautiful. I shall get these bagged in due course. I think they're so nice. Star Science Fiction Stories number 4, great original stories again. So they're keeping the originality going, which is interesting. What was in this one then? Got the introduction again. Kuttner, Kornbluth, Lieber. Yeah, I mean, a great, great list. Do love reading science fiction short stories. And here's yet another one. So this is number 4. This is number 5. This is number 308 in the Ballantine series. 9 top original stories this time round. And look at the list. Silverberg in this one as well as Matheson. Really nice, nice copy of that one as well. I seem to remember I picked up numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 all in one hit from a little job lot on eBay, and they worked out at £4 each, which I thought was absolutely fine. You know, here's another one that's been imported into the UK. It's got a 2 and 6 shilling, 2 shillings 6pence, a little 10p in there, which is not great. Now, this is slightly different because it says it's a Ballantine suspense book. And it's clearly called Suspense. Richard Martin Stern, who won the winner of the Edgar Award for Best First Mystery Novel of the Year. So it's got 4 stories by him, copyrighted 51, 55, 58, 59, Saturday Evening Post. So maybe that's where they were originally printed, or possibly in a crime digest of some sort. Then another Wyndham, Outward Urge. The story of man's leap into the seas of space. Very nice indeed. And some of the other ones on the back there, which I really love to see. There we are. So we've sort of filled up the table here. So let me just make a little bit more room. Chad Oliver. Don't know much about this author. This is a Ballantine 365. And Ballantine did start playing with little numbers and letters after the series number, and I'm not sure, I haven't really researched into it, a bit like Corgi. I suspect that it was something to do with the price and all the genre on the series, so not really sure on that. Best American Short Stories, 1959. So going the topographical route this time, which not such a fan of. I prefer the lovely artwork jackets. But we'll let it off because it's such a great series. And yeah, you could get really lost in these books, couldn't you? There's a lot on offer, you know, a lot on offer. Another Jose Farmer, Strange Relations. Blanchard did the sort of artwork on this one. Very, very nice. These don't go for that much, these Jose Farmers. You do see them around, and they're only like £5 or £6 each when you come across them, so they represent good value for money. This is 1960, so we have hit the 1960s now. Virgin Springs. This is a movie tie-in. Ingmar Bergman's most powerful film, they say. The Virgin Spring. It's got a little photo insert inside. And Ballantine did a few movie tie-ins, which we'll see. We'll see a little handful of those. That was number 444. This is 449. Probably my second favourite John Wyndham, in actual fact, Trouble with Liking. I really like this one. I think I like my Wyndhams in the order that I originally read them, and after I'd done Triffids, I think this was the next one I read. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it. It was in the Penguin edition, first time round. Now this one I got fairly recently. It was from Dorset Bob. It was a nice little book. The other passenger, it had a little sticker removal mark at the top. I didn't spot it at the time, but because Dorset Bob gives such good deals, he gave it to me at a discount, which I can't complain about. That was number 480. This is at 507, another Jose Farmer. Very, very nice copy of this one, The Lovers. I suspect this one came as an import. Beautiful edition of this, 1961. That looks unread, that one, so that's lovely. Now another interesting movie tie-in, La Dolce Vita. Go back a bit. And this is Ballantine 517. And Frederick Fellini's masterpiece. And it's 75 cents, so it's a lot dearer than the regular book, but 96 pages of photos. And if you have a look at that. It's stacked with images from the film. In fact, it's got the full script as well. Very unusual. And quite a lavish production for the time that it was made, you could say. Look at that. 1961. Lovely, isn't it? So yeah, quite an unusual one, that one, and one I'm pleased to have. And some were human. Lester Del Rey. This is number 552. Very clearly got the 2 and 6 British edition there. It's got, this is a really good example of it. It's got TP, and that stood for Thorpe and Porter, who were the importers of these from the States. And they used TP as in an Indian's teepee as part of their logo there. You see the little teepee there? So that's the full Thorpe and Porter import label there that you're seeing. This is 552. Yep, and somewhere here, Leicester Del Rey. Very nice. Got this one recently as well, 577. What a great jacket that one is. I really like that one. Shadows with Eyes, Fritz Leiber. Six Tales of Crawling Horror. So a mini horror anthology there. Looks good, doesn't it? That's 577. Yet another Jose Farmer, The Alley God. Yep, 3 novellas here. This was 3 and 6 over here. It's just slightly dearer. That's the ones that were in that one. Very nice. The Day the Earth Caught Fire. So the book of the movie that the Saturday Review describes as better than On the Beach. Barry Wells. Ballantine original. Look at that. That's lovely, isn't it? That's really, really nice. And that's Leo McKern, Edward Judd, and Janet Monroe. You know, I like Leo McKern. He's great, isn't he? What a great actor. 1961. Very nice indeed. This is Jet. This is just an odd, almost like a generic Ballantine. Nothing too special about that, except it's quite a nice one. I've got the British edition of that, which I believe was published by Pan. That one, Jet. Aha, Best American Short Stories in 1962. This is our first one that I've got from the 1960s. And once again, it's got a typographical cover, but got some good stuff there. Erwin Shaw, John Updike, Arthur Miller. Yeah, look, they did 60 and 61 because they're both listed there with the series number. There we are, a little look at what's in that one. Nice copy of that, actually. It's only got a couple of light spine creases, which is unusual for those. Well, this is a great one, isn't it? Look at this, Philip K. Dick, Martian Time Slip. Ah, lovely, lovely. I mean, I'm not trying to deliberately collect Philip K. Dick in British or American. I just always pick him up when I see him. And this Ballantine, it's the only Dick I've got in Ballantine. It says U2191. So they've started to play around with their numbering ever so slightly now. Still 1964, but, you know, Ballantine started 1953. So they've been around for 11 years now, and they're a big force to be reckoned with. So the numbering got a little bit more elaborate. 50 cents as well. So the pricing's a little bit all over the place, dependent on the size of the book. But after this sort of period, I'm much more spread out with what I've got Ballantine. I'm trying to concentrate on the 50s and early 60s ones if I can. So Inside Out. Philip Jose Farmer, U2192. And I don't see this one very often. I'm not sure if this ever got imported. 1964, that one. Interesting jacket on that. And we've got another one, Dare, Jose Farmer, 2193. These were simultaneous numbers. That was 2192, this is 2193. So these were probably released back to back. It says a Ballantine Science Fiction original. So I'm guessing this is the paperback original of Dare, which is rather nice. I'm going to once again move this pile over here, like so. So we can now look at, I think this is our last one of these that I've got, although I'm always on the lookout for more. It's Best American Short Stories for 1964. A little bit more of a funkier cover, and they do get funkier as the 60s go on, as you might expect. And yeah, I very much like that. Martha Foley again. There's some of the authors on the back. That's Joyce Carol Oates. Wow. And of course, a lot of these authors got some of their big breaks by being in this anthology. It was so influential in its day. And possibly The Last Wyndham, Chocky. Very, very nice Ballantine, this one. Once again, it was a paperback original in the States. When I first had this one, I thought he was playing with something like a Rubik Cube, but this would have been far earlier than that. And of course, it's like a DNA strand. But yeah, at first glance, it looks a little bit like a Rubik Cube. And look, don't miss. It even includes John Norman. Now, I didn't bring these down because I have done a separate John Norman video, but the first 4, I believe, John Norman books, the Gore books, were actually published in Ballantine, but I've done those separately on the channel, so maybe if I ever do another update, I'll try and remember to bring the Gore books down, but yeah, you've seen them all before, I'm sure. Unlike quite a lot of this stuff, because I think it's been 2.5, 3 years since I've shown my fledgling Ballantine collection, and it's certainly come on a bit since then. Neutron Star, Larry Niven, U6120. Quite nice, isn't it? So got Outlaw of Gore there on the back. Now, one thing Ballantine did do quite early on was publish some Star Trek books, and this one here is absolutely exceptional. This is the first printing of the making of Star Trek. What a book it is. September 1968. This is not that easy to find, particularly in nice condition. It took me quite a while to find a first printing of this. It got reprinted several times by Ballantine, then came back again in the 80s. Titan Books did a British edition of it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was still in print today. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, Stephen Whitfield had access to the show while the last season was being filmed, and he got to interview all the cast, Roddenberry, all behind the scenes. It's just a terrific read, and if you've never read it, I highly recommend it. And we'll see a bit more Star Trek in a minute. Now, these are slightly later Ballantines that I've not collected per se because, oh, that's a nice early Ballantine. They're just Ballantine books that have come my way in job lots. So we got Dimension 13, a nice Robert Silverberg there. I think this is a first printing, but we'll double check. Yeah, May 69. They're not all firsts, I don't think. And we've got this one here, The Wanderer, Fritz Leiber. Yeah, this is a reprint from June 69. It first got printed in Feb 64, but this is probably a reprint with a different number and definitely a different cover, that one. So if I ever get the original, I'll probably get rid of the reprint. Although saying that, here's 2 which are reprints, Space Merchants and Gladiator at Law, and these are obviously reprints that were published earlier on in Ballantine's career, but I've saved these as readers, and these are just really nice. Not vintage, but early, I think, 70s editions. Actually, this is the 6th printing from 1969. So there we are. I think that was like Ballantine number 21 or something, Space Merchants. So yeah, these are late 60s editions, so they're still, 55 years old. These are really nice copies, and those are the editions I shall read when I get round to reading those, because they're super nice. I think this is original, Frederick Poole, and it's The Age of Pussyfoot. First Ballantine print in October 69. Very nice indeed. And we got this one, which is The Last Jose Farmer, before we have a look at some tail-end Star Trek books. This is, once again, it's an original. It's early 70s, or sort of 73 maybe. November 73, yeah. I think this is quite tricky to find with its all-black cover like that, Rare. If you see that one in nice condition, pick it up. It's also a paperback original, so it's going to be a harder one to find. Now, we've just got some Star Trek books. I'm just going to pause there a moment. Okay, so I've got these 2, which is The World of Star Trek and The Trouble with Tribbles, and they're both by SF author David Gerrold. David Gerrold also wrote that famous episode, The Trouble with Tribbles, and these were published at the same time, which is in May 73. My copies are both signed by David Gerrold. There we are. Best wishes, David Gerrold. As is this one. And this is when he used to do conventions. And I picked those up off eBay about 20 years ago, and maybe longer than that. And I was over the moon to get them in first printing and to be signed as well. And it cost me about $20. So a veritable bargain, I think we will agree. Now, the other thing that Ballantine did was they published these Star Trek logs. Now, the Star Trek logs were the adaptations of the animated series. So when Star Trek came out of went into syndication, rather, they stopped making the original show, but it was a huge hit in syndication, and the repeats were on all the time. And of course, Bantam were publishing the James Blish books at this point, and they'd drawn them out as best they possibly could to get the most out of the original source material, and Alan Dean Foster was told to do the same. So he adapts, I think it's 3 animated episodes, 3 animated episodes per book, and they came out, and there was 10 volumes of these. So it's volume 1 and 2 there, number 3, and then the last ones, I think volumes 9 and 10 are just a single episode each, really expanded. And volume 10 though is published by Del Rey. It's log 6. Move these over here so they're all in picture. It's log number 7. I have a real soft spot for the Star Trek animated series. It's Filmation. I love their Star Trek and I loved their Tarzan. They were the 2 series I really loved as a kid. Oh, they're not quite in order there, so one's slightly out of order there, but you're seeing them all. And there was the last one, log number 9, slightly different cover design. Then log 10, as I said, was published by Del Rey. Then they did another Star Trek book here in the 70s. This is about 77, I think it is. Let's have a look. Yeah, January 77, Letters to Star Trek. Susan Sackett, I think she was possibly Gene Roddenberry's secretary or something like that, or she worked in the press office, so she had lots of access to the show at the time. And these are some of the best sort of fan letters. It's a look at the early conventions and things like that. It's really interesting, actually. Much more interesting than you might think. Then the very last book, well, I'm almost ashamed to show it to you, but it is a Star Trek one, but it's probably one of the worst Star Trek books that ever got published. It's Trek or Treat. And what they've done, it's oblong, as you can see, and it is Ballantine. And what they did, they took stills and then put supposedly humorous, like, quotes on the opposite page. Like, will you look at that long-haired weirdo? I mean, it's just, they're awful, really. But maybe it's a bit of a rarity. I don't know. I've had a couple of copies through my hands, but it's, in my opinion, the worst Star Trek book that ever got printed. I really, really don't like it at all. And I'm a big fan of any oddball stuff like this, particularly with the original show. But yeah, not one I would suggest you seek out, because it's blimmin' awful. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed that little look through my vintage Ballantine paperback collection. Certainly it's at least doubled in the last 2 or 3 years, and I don't see any sign of that stopping soon, because I think the books are really lovely, and particularly in high grade, they're just gorgeous to look at, and I love them, and a great selection of authors to boot. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already, for regular vintage paperback content, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.